large parts of the world are faced with starvation, while others are living in abundance. The fate of humanity is entirely dependent upon its moral development.
Albert Einstein, Love, Espionage, and Lessons Beyond the Grave. Albert Einstein was born on the 14th of March, 1979 in Germany to a Jewish family. His father, Hermann, was a salesman and engineer. Along with his brother Jacob, he founded a company in Munich that was involved in the mass production of electrical equipment, which was quite innovative at the time. Albert Einstein is famous for his theory of relativity, which fundamentally changed our understanding of physics. E equals mc squared comes from his theory. It expresses the idea that energy, E, and mass, m, are interchangeable. They are different forms of the same thing. This equation shows that a small amount of mass can be converted into a large amount of energy, which is the principle behind nuclear energy. Einstein had a fat head at the time he was born, which initially worried his mother and grandmother. However, his head size normalized as he grew. He did not speak until the age of 3. Despite this, he went on to become one of the most influential scientists in history. Now, this phenomenon is sometimes referred to as Einstein syndrome, where children exhibit delayed speech but later show exceptional abilities in various areas. The parietal lobe in Einstein's brain is 15% larger than that of the average brain. This region of the brain is associated with mathematical thought, visuospatial cognition, and movement. Additionally, Einstein's brain lacked a groove known as a Savilian fissure, which may have allowed for more connections between neurons in this area. Einstein never wore socks, he found them unnecessary, and even wrote about it in letters to his friends and family. He mentioned that his big toe would always end up making a hole in his sock, so he decided to stop wearing them altogether. He even managed to avoid wearing socks on formal occasions by wearing high boots to cover up the lack of socks. He never learned how to swim, nevertheless he loved sailing. He enjoyed spending time on the water and often took a boat out onto the lake to relax and think, but he always stayed on the boat. He had a poor memory. He often forgot dates, names, and even his own phone number. Despite his incredible intellectual and groundbreaking contributions to science, he struggled with everyday details. One of his teachers even remarked that he had memory like a sieve. Although some of Einstein's teachers found him challenging because of his independent thinking and inquisitive nature, he excelled in subjects he was passionate about, especially mathematics and physics. His academic path was not without challenges, though, particularly in subjects such as language and biology, where he did not perform as well. Nonetheless, his grades were mostly above average, and he demonstrated remarkable aptitude in areas that captured his interest. He was an exceptional musician, skilled as a violinist and pianist. Einstein started playing the violin at just 6 years old and maintained this passion throughout his life. He harbored profound appreciation for classical music, especially the compositions of Mozart and Bach. Einstein often said that music helped him think and relax. He even mentioned that if he hadn't been a physicist, he would have been a musician. His passion for music was so strong that he once said, "Life without playing music is inconceivable for me. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music." His first wife was Mileva Maric, a Serbian mathematician whom he met while they were both students at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. They married in 1903 and had 2 sons, Hans Albert and Edward. Some say Maric might have co-authored his 1905 relativity paper. In the 1980s, American physicist Evan Walker Harris published an article in Physics Today claiming that Maric was one of many co-authors of Einstein's 1905 paper on special relativity. Most physicists and historians of science have rejected this claim. After Einstein's death in 1955, Soviet physicist Abram Fedorovich Joff described some correspondence he had with Einstein early in their careers in an article published in Russian. He had asked Einstein for prints of some of his papers and wrote, "The author of these articles, Einstein Marathi." A popular Russian science writer called Daniely Semenovich Danin interpreted Joff's account to mean that Einstein and Maric collaborated on the work. Einstein letters are full of his ideas about physics. Maric's contain none, and she was not a talented physicist or mathematician. She failed her final examinations and was never granted a diploma. Maric and Einstein divorced in 1919, but as part of the divorce settlement, Einstein agreed to pay his ex-wife all of any future Nobel Prize money he might be awarded. This is another reason why people think she might have been co-author. His second wife, Elsa Lowenthal, was his first cousin on his mother's side and his second cousin on his father's side. They began the relationship in 1912 while he is still married to Merritt. They married in 1919 after Einstein's divorce. Elsa was a significant support to Einstein, especially during his health issues, and they remained married until her death in 1936. Hitler considered Einstein public enemy number one. Hitler and the Nazi regime considered Albert Einstein a significant threat. He was a prominent Jewish intellectual and a vocal critic of the Nazis. When Hitler came to power in 1933, Einstein was in the United States and decided not to return to Germany due to the rising anti-Semitism and the dangerous political climate. The Nazis targeted Einstein's work and reputation, labeling his theories as Jewish physics, and attempted to discredit him. They even placed a bounty on his head, making him a public enemy. Despite these threats, Einstein continued to speak out against the regime and supported efforts to help Jewish refugees escape from Europe. In 1921, Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. However, he actually received the award in 1922. The Nobel Prize was awarded to him for his service to theoretical physics, and especially for his discovery of the law of photoelectric effect. This discovery was crucial in the development of quantum theory and had significant implications for the understanding of light and energy. Einstein became a strong advocate for nuclear disarmament after witnessing the devastating effects of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He was deeply concerned about the potential for future nuclear wars and the annihilation of humanity. In the last decade of his life, Einstein dedicated himself to promoting peace and international cooperation. He frequently spoke out against the arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. He believed that the only way to ensure global security was through the elimination of nuclear weapons. He was a supporter of civil rights. After moving to the United States in 1933, he became increasingly aware of the racial segregation and discrimination faced by African Americans. He actively spoke out against racism and worked with several civil rights organizations. Einstein was a member of the NAACP and developed a close friendship with civil rights leader W.E.B. Du Bois. He also supported the campaign to defend the Scottsboro Boys, which were 9 African American teenagers falsely accused of rape in Alabama. In 1946, he gave a speech at Lincoln University, a historical black university, where he called racism a disease of white people. The FBI spied on Einstein. They kept him under surveillance from the moment he entered the United States in 1933 until his death in 1955. The FBI, led by J. Edgar Hoover, was suspicious of Einstein's political views and his advocacy for peace, civil rights, and Zionism. They amassed a file over 1,400 pages on him, which included wiretaps, mail interceptions, and even searches of his trash. Einstein's outspoken nature and his connections with various political and social movements made him a target during a time of heightened paranoia about communism and espionage. Einstein was a genius when it came to science, but love was a different matter. Unbeknownst to Einstein, the woman he had an affair with was a Russian spy. Margarita Ivanova Vorontsova Konnikova was born in 1895 in the remote Russian town of Sevastopol. As a young woman, she moved to Moscow and enrolled in law courses. She was associated with Russian composer Sergei Rachmaninoff and famous opera singer Fyodor Shalyapin. In Moscow, she met her husband, Sergei Kononov, the Russian Rodin. Sergei was already a famous sculptor. In 1923, the couple traveled together to the United States, where Margarita became a socialite, attending numerous balls and social events, while Sergei continued to create art. In 1935, Sergei was commissioned to make a bust of Albert Einstein for Princeton University. The couple met Einstein just before the work began. Sergei visited Princeton only a few times to talk over the plans for the project, while Margarita became a frequent visitor. After Einstein's second wife, Elsa, died in 1936, Einstein and Margarita's relationship became more friendly. Einstein even persuaded Sergei to send Margarita over to his cottage at Saranac Lake by writing a letter stating that she was ill and needed to spend time in a good climate to get well. He even attached a fake doctor certificate. Each year she spent several months living with Einstein next to Saranac, while her husband Sergei worked in Chicago. The scientist even came up with the name Almar, which stood for Albert Margarita. According to Pavel Sotoplatov, an intelligence general for Joseph Stalin, Margarita was indispensable in terms of spying on America's nuclear program. Margarita's mission was to find out about the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project's goal was to produce the first nuclear weapons. She successfully infiltrated the Princeton Science Circle, where besides becoming close to Einstein, she also befriended Robert Oppenheimer, who was one of the fathers of the atomic bomb. She talked Oppenheimer into hiring people known for their leftist views. Einstein met with Pavel Mikhailov, the USS consul who worked for the Soviet Army intelligence, a few times as a favor for Margarita. Einstein knew that Margarita's future in the USSR depended on this meeting. The Konnikovs went back to Moscow in 1946. They were provided for by the government. The relationship between Einstein and Margarita was revealed through a series of letters he wrote to her. These letters, which surfaced many years later, are now preserved by the Library of Congress and demonstrates the profound affection and bond they shared. Einstein presented Margarita with a gold watch as a parting gift when she and her husband departed the United States following World War II. Einstein was offered and declined the opportunity to become president of Israel after the death of its first president in 1952. Einstein declined the presidency, citing his inexperience in politics and his advanced age as reasons. He believed he was not fit for the role, expressing that he lacked the inherent skill and experience required to engage politically with people. Einstein died on April 18, 1955 in Princeton, New Jersey, at the age of 76 from an abdominal aortic aneurysm. Despite his declining health, he continued to work on his scientific theories till his final days. After Einstein's death, his eyes were removed during an autopsy conducted by pathologist Thomas Harvey. They were given to Einstein's eye doctor, Henry Abrams. They are now kept in a safety deposit box in New York City. Einstein's brain was stolen after his death. Harvey removed Einstein's brain without permission and took the brain for scientific study, hoping to uncover the secrets behind Einstein's genius. He preserved the brain in celluloid and kept it for many years, even cutting it into 240 pieces and distributing some of those pieces to other researchers. Einstein's legacy continues to influence and inspire scientists and thinkers around the world, and even after his death, Einstein is teaching us new things. His theory of relativity has enabled scientists to discover a planet 3 times the size of Jupiter. The planet KELT 9b is hotter than most stars. Techniques based on Einstein's theories, such as gravitational microlensing and relativistic beaming, made this discovery possible. The general theory of relativity describes how the gravity of stars can bend light waves, an effect that can expose otherwise hidden planets. This theory has aided in the discovery of a massive planet named MOA 2016 BLG 227LB. MOA is a super-Jupiter mass planet orbiting a star in the galactic bulge, located at 21,000 light-years from Earth. International researchers, including teams from the United States, Israel, and Japan, employed gravitational microlensing to detect the way light bends around the planet. Was Stephen Hawking Albert Einstein? Stephen Hawking and Albert Einstein have such striking similarities in their lives. This makes some people think that Einstein was reincarnated as Stephen Hawking. You be the judge. They both had neurological disorders. Hawking's was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is ALS. ALS is a neurodegenerative disease that slowly erodes nerves that control voluntary movement. So he really couldn't move as the disease progressed, and that is why he was wheelchair-bound for most of his life. Einstein suffered from a mild case of Asperger's syndrome, developmental disorder characterized by difficulties in social interaction and nonverbal communication, as well as attention deficit disorder, ADD. This means he didn't know what to do or how to act towards others sometimes, and he had a hard time concentrating. Einstein and Hawking were both married twice. Einstein divorced his first wife, Maliva Merritt, to marry Elsa Lowenthal. They were together until she passed away. Hawking divorced his wife of 30 years, Jane Wilde, to marry Elaine Mason. He eventually divorced her too. They both were fascinated by the universe and time travel. Einstein looked at things from a relativistic point of view, while Hawking focused more on quantum physics. They both thought that their own ideas were stupid. Einstein thought that one of his biggest mistakes was the cosmological constant he introduced into equations for general relativity. Hawking thought his was the information loss in black holes. Both of them became famous. They both had a good sense of humor. Einstein claimed that humor powered his brilliant intellect. On his 72nd birthday, a photographer asked him to smile, so he stuck out his tongue. He was known for his childlike sense of humor. Hawking's was also known for his amazing one-liners that had intellect to them. Both Einstein and Hawking's passed away when they were 76 years old. Was Einstein part of the Illuminati? Some believe Einstein was a member of the Illuminati. While there is no clear connection to the Illuminati, it has been reported that Einstein visited Bohemian Grove.
The nations were promised liberation and justice, but we have witnessed and are witnessing even now the sad spectacle of liberating armies firing into populations who want their independence and social equality, and supporting in those countries by force of arms such parties and personalities as appear to be most suited to serve vested interests. Territorial questions and arguments of power, obsolete though they are, still prevail over the essential demands of common welfare and justice.